Hare Krishna, welcome everybody. This is Krishna Dasa. So today we continue 9th chapter. We are going to do 9.11 to 9.15. And before we begin, I'll say the prayers to Guru and God, and then I'll play the Guru mantra also. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshuru Militamene Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna.
Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha.
Hare Krishna. So I'm going to play these shlokas.
अवजानन्ति मां मूढा मानुषीं तनुमाश्रितम् परं भावमजानन्तो मम भूतमहेश्वरम् मोहाशामोहकर्माणो मोहज्ञानाविचेतसः राक्षसीमासुरीं चैव प्रकृतिं मोहिनीं श्रुताः महात्मानस्तु मां पार्थ दैवीं प्रकृतिमाश्रिताः भजन्त्यनन्यमनसो ज्ञात्वा भूतादिमव्ययम् सततं कीर्तयन्तो मां यतन्तश्च दृढव्रताः नमस्यन्तश्च मां भक्त्या नित्ययुक्ता उपासते ज्ञानयज्ञेन चाप्यन्ये यजन्तो मामुपासते एकत्वेन पृथक्त्वेन बहुधा विश्वतो मुखम्.
Hare Krishna. So who is reading the translation today?
It's Dipali. Hare Krishna. 9.11. Foolish people disregard me when I descend in a human form. They do not know my supreme nature as the controller of all living beings. 9.12. Such individuals harbor futile hopes and possess deluded knowledge, leading to bewildered minds. They find refuge in atheistic and demonical natures, which are but misleading manifestations of material energy. Their efforts and fruitive actions are completely wasted, and their pursuit of well-being proves to be fruitless. 9.13. But the noble and great souls, O son of Pritha, taking refuge in my divine nature, worship me with a single mind, knowing me to be the imperishable source of all beings. 9.14. Always singing my divine glories, striving with great determination, and humbly bowing down before me, they constantly worship me in loving devotion. 9.15. Others, through the sacrifice of cultivating wisdom and knowledge, worship me in various ways. Some perceive me as a singular, undivided essence, inseparable from themselves, while others envision me as distinct and separate. Yet others adore me in my infinite cosmic forms, recognizing the diversity within the unity and the universal expanse of my nature. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. So as you can see, Krishna is explaining his divinity in more details now. So we already learned, I hope this, whatever we are learning, I hope it's not that difficult. Are you able to recollect parts of it? I hope it doesn't feel like in every session, it shouldn't feel like we are talking about something new, because every session is a continuation of the previous session. Okay. So if something doesn't feel right or if something doesn't make sense, feel free to pause, ask me to pause and if you have any doubts, please get it clarified. So in the previous session, Krishna explained how everything is manifested. How are things manifested in the universe? He gave the mechanism, if you remember. He said first it's Mahan, which is Atma or higher self. Then Ahankar gets manifested. Then Pancha Tanmatras get manifested. Then Pancha Mahabhutas get manifested. You feel like you've heard these terms? Okay, Kalpana says yes. Okay, awesome. Okay. What we need to understand is Krishna's body is not manifested that way. So Krishna, he's not made of the same Pancha Mahabhuta because it is a divine manifestation. It's a divine body. And what was that one term that we kept using? Anybody remembers? About manifesting, unmanifesting. Yes, Sulataji? Avasam, correct. So we are helpless. So first of all, we are manifested in a certain way. And when the time is over, we are unmanifest again. And we are helpless in both situations. We don't have a conscious control on how we need to be manifested. And we don't have a conscious control on how we need to be unmanifested either. So the word used was avasam. That is how it is. However, Krishna is not avasam. So Krishna is not manifested the same way and Krishna is not avasam because he comes in this divine form by his own free will. And why does he come? Yada yada hid dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya. You remember that whole shloka, correct? Where he says, I come here to restore justice, restore righteousness, and I will keep coming again and again to protect my devotees. And he also comes to guide all the souls who have become victim of Maya. So what is the word used for people who are turned away from God?
Vimukh.
Yes. Vimukh. Vimukh Atma. So Krishna doesn't just let us remain Vimukh. He takes avatars and he tries to turn us back. You know, we just have to listen to Krishna. That's all. Okay. So in chapter 4 of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna had said something similar. Krishna said, Ajopi sanya vyayatma bhutanam ishwaropi san prakrutim swamadishtaya sambhavam yatma yayaya. He said, although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, although I am the Lord of all sentient beings, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. So in this verse, Krishna says that despite being unborn is Ajo, imperishable, Avyaya, and the Lord of all beings, Bhutanam Ishvara, he still appears, Sambhavami, in his original transcendental form, Prakritim Swam, by his own spiritual potency, Atma Mayaya. So in that one shloka, he is telling about how he, out of his own free will, manifests in every millennium. So why we are discussing this? We are discussing this so that there should be no doubt, absolutely no doubt that there is an nirguna aspect, of course, all-pervading aspect of Krishna, but there is also an original form that Krishna speaks about. So Krishna exists both as a form as well as formless. We have to have conviction in this. Only if we have conviction in this, we can think of any form of Krishna and be able to look at it as Krishna and not just as some entity, you know. That is why Krishna himself is giving us this assurance again and again in many different ways. But then again, Krishna says that, you know, I appear in my divine form, but these deluded souls, they don't recognize me. Even when I come in front of them, even when I tell them that I am Krishna, even when I tell them that I am an avatar, even then these deluded souls, they fail to recognize me. What's a great example? Does somebody remember an example from Mahabharata where this happened?
Duryodhan, when Krishna showed him his Virat Roop.
Yes, exactly. There are no wrong answers, and everybody can feel free to answer. No negative markings. Everybody will pass. So yes, Duryodhan was a very prominent example, but he was not the only example. Because there were many people who are supporting Duryodhana, and not all of them recognized the divinity of Krishna. You know, who was that person who kept insulting Krishna?
Karnan.
Shishupal.
Yes.
Balan Karnan. Karnan also he knows, but
Yeah, Karna knows that Krishna is divine, but he is using his own intellect.
Yeah.
You know. But Shishupal is another example where he was related to Krishna, but still he couldn't acknowledge the divinity of Krishna. So much so that he kept insulting Krishna. 99 times. The 100th time is when his end came, you see. So these are all examples, but what are we supposed to learn from these examples? What we are supposed to learn is, why do you think those people couldn't recognize the divinity of Krishna? Because he was walking amongst humans. He was walking amongst us as another common human. He was working like us. He was studying like us. He was talking like us. So for some reason, that made it hard for people to recognize him. Although later on he even showed his Vishwarupa Darshanam, because he had been with them, among them, they just took him for granted. So that is a lesson for us. The lesson is, we should look beyond the external appearances. We have to focus on the extraordinary that lies within all of us. There is an extraordinary within the ordinary. We just have to learn to look at that. This is what happens. If somebody seems very simple, if somebody seems very humble, and they are just with you, they are walking with you, talking to you, we find it very hard to accept them as something higher. You know, we expect some kind of a thunder and dazzling when somebody comes in front of us. Only then we will accept them as something better, you know. So this is a lesson for us, that we need to try and look beyond the ordinary. But why is it that way? Because that was the whole idea of Samadarshana, if you remember. This is what Krishna is teaching us. Krishna is saying, don't expect thunder and lightning and, you know, all that dazzle-gazzle just to acknowledge somebody as the supreme or somebody as the divine, because there is a divine in everybody. I am there in everybody. And Krishna says, learn to look at that. Learn to focus on that. That is the lesson for us in these first couple of slokas that Krishna is saying. Krishna says, deluded people find it very hard to recognize and acknowledge the divinity in anybody, even me. Although I am the supreme divine, even me, they are finding it hard to acknowledge. So we don't want to be those deluded Atmas. So all Krishna is saying is, always keep in mind that Krishna is everywhere, Krishna is in everything. What happens if we are able to internalize this? If we are able to internalize this, then everything looks sacred. Our whole existence feels sacred to us. And that is how we want to live. So now let us discuss a few aspects, key aspects of the process required to attain Krishna. So Krishna is telling us, okay, first acknowledge the divinity. Once you acknowledge the divinity, how do you attain the divine? So what Krishna is again saying is that true wisdom and devotion, they are not about external practices. They are not about what you do externally, what kind of show you make. That is not what is important. Krishna again says what is more important is your internal state of mind. The bhava. The bhava is what is extremely important. So the wise ones, they are always engaged in act of worship. But what is the most significant form of worship? The most significant form of worship is all the time thinking, ananya chintan. That is an internal thing, that is not external. So if somebody looks at you, they cannot tell that you are thinking about Krishna. And that is fine. That is the best way to worship Krishna. It has to be an internal thing. You are always thinking about Krishna, and Krishna says that is the best form of worship, and you have to focus more on that. It's okay to go put garlands and burn candles or whatever you want to do. That's all fine. But the most important is in your heart. Are you focused on me? And he's again and again repeating that is the most important aspect of how you reach me. That kind of a worship is very, very important. And how do we develop this? Because we have so many distractions, correct? People have to go to school, they have to give exams, they have to go to work, they have to take care of their house, they have to cook, they have to do this, they have to do that. And then people come and ask, they say, Guruji, how can we think of Krishna all the time when we have to take care of so many things? We are not like sannyasis. We don't sit in a mountain. We cannot all the time think of Krishna. We have so many things that we need to take care of. But do you all have any advice for such a person who is asking such a question?
I'm always thinking of Krishna while doing the things. Even while cooking, I'm cooking for Krishna. While doing this, I'm treating everybody, that's as a Krishna. Oh, I'm doing for this.
Correct.
Karma and being in satsang.
Being in satsang, excellent. That is another aspect of it. At least once a week, at least 1 hour every week, I think we are all thinking of Krishna together in this satsang. That itself is a accomplishment. So let us extend that. Let us keep in touch. That's why I say you use this satsang that way. Keep chatting, keep talking. Also, devotion in action. This is what we learned. Devotion in action means you dedicate your action to Krishna. See, this may seem like very abstract, or this may seem like, what does it mean, dedicate your action? So I'll give you a very simple example. This example just comes to my mind because it was a very popular example. These people who drive rickshaws in India. It's a very tough job. It's a very difficult job. They have to be, facing, because there is no air condition. It's open on both sides, and people don't treat them well. They're always, keep your rickshaw there, don't bring your rickshaw here and all of that, and customers don't treat them well. And so, but the point is, the person driving the rickshaw, if that person's only goal is, I want to make some money, then they are going to feel frustrated very quickly. That job will become very frustrating. That job will become depressing. And we have all seen many rickshawalas, they're pretty grumpy. For this reason, because just visualize, put yourself in their shoes. Try to make it your living, and you will also become grumpy. However, I was watching one serial, Saregamapa, last year. And one of the finalists of that show was a girl. Her name was Jnaneshwari. And she was one of the best singers we have seen. And she sings classical music. And beautiful. She's like one of the best. All of that. However, her father is a rickshaw driver. So she comes from a family, not a family of musicians, but she comes from a family where her father is a rickshaw driver. But you should see the pride on the face of her father. Because he is in this mindset that I'm driving the rickshaw to support my daughter. I'm driving the rickshaw to help her achieve her dreams. In other words, the action is the same. He's driving the same rickshaw that the other grumpy drivers are also driving. But he's not grumpy like them because he has a higher purpose. He's dedicating that job. He's dedicating what he's doing to a higher purpose. That higher purpose is his daughter's success, the dream of his daughter. You see how this works? Now imagine if you can dedicate your action to the highest purpose. Then naturally everything will feel nice. Like you will be able to handle every job. And you will be able to feel happy in every situation. And that is the best way to always have Ananya Chintan of Krishna. Because, yes, you have to cook, you have to wash, you have to go to school, you have to give exams, yes. But when you are doing all of this, you are not doing just because I want to pass, or just because I want to make money, or just because you are doing all of that because you are trying to keep Krishna happy. You are saying, Krishna, see, I am following your teachings. I am dedicating my action to you. I know it makes you happy and your happiness gives me happy. You see? So if you can try this mode of working, this is what devotion in action means. That will feed into your Ananya Chintan. And when it feeds into your Ananya Chintan becomes strong, and then you are on the right track after that. I hope this makes sense.
Guruji, I want to share one experience.
Yeah, sure.
Recent experience.
Sure.
I'm not sure if this is the example of devotion in action, but what happened, like I'm going through the root canal process, which is a little bit painful process. And it requires a couple of sittings. So first sitting when I went, the first sitting, so I was afraid, like, and when the process started, when I closed my eyes, and it was like the feelings in my mind was, the Krishna in the doctor is operating on me, and the Krishna inside me is bearing the pain. Throughout 1 hour, this feeling was inside me. And I did not feel pain, single pain. And in the second sitting, what happened before going to the doctor appointment, something happened and I was disturbed, little bit disturbed. And the second sitting, those things were going on in my mind. And I felt pain, and after the treatment, when the pain was then I realized oh, today during the process, I did not, in my mind, I did not, remember Krishna, and I felt pain. This is a recent experience.
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Ashaji. Beautiful. So my best wishes to all of you. Let us all practice in our own ways to do Nishkama Karma and also practice devotion in action. These things will feed into our Ananya Chintan, and Ananya Chintan you can experience in your own lives. Everything will feel more blissful and easy and more sacred. And that is how we want to live our life. And Krishna also talks about those who do not do this. Krishna talks about those who cannot accept these kind of teachings. They are these atheists and people with demonic qualities, and these are the ones who become vimukhas until the end of time. These are like serious vimukhas. And what happens to vimukh souls? Anybody remembers what happens to vimukh souls when unmanifestation happens?
They will be suspended.
Yes.
Going on with them.
Yes. Suspended animation. Correct. It's not fun, guys. So we need to make sure we don't get into that recycle loop. Okay. So Krishna has explained the path of devotion. Krishna has also told what happens if we are on the opposite path. We remain vimukhas, deluded. Okay. And then he talks about great souls and pure devotees. Krishna says that great souls are those who have woken up from their ignorance and who have realized that the material consciousness is just a bad dream. So beautiful. A lot of us are in the material world and we seek evidence for the divinity. Whereas Krishna is saying divinity is the truth and this material existence is a dream. It's a bad dream that these vimukhas refuse to wake up from. What to do? You see? It's a very, very interesting way to put it. So Krishna says that all you need is follow my teachings, become a pure devotee. If you become a pure devotee, you are going to get my grace and you will get released from the grips of Maya. And what happens? Such a soul, this is the definition according to Krishna of a Mahatma. So we should be calling only such people as Mahatmas, not these political people. So Krishna is saying, anybody who has practiced my teachings, who has practiced devotion, who has received my grace, and who has become liberated from the cycle of birth and death, such a person is a Mahatma. Maha-Atma. Because they are not under the control of material nature now. So how does such a person come into existence? What is the ingredient that makes them Mahatma? One of the key ingredients is surrender. Total surrender. Because that is where the real evolution starts. Okay, and I think we discussed the total surrender the method of total surrender in chapter 7. I hope you all remember. And today we have, I think, Anika. Is it Anika and Suchita? You're going to talk about that, the total surrender?
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Yes, Guruji.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So, surrendering is the key to understanding, internalizing, and applying divine knowledge effectively. So, Krishna doesn't force us to surrender, but rather he encourages it along with complete devotion based on understanding of his infinite and superior nature, all his majestic opulence. So, this surrender doesn't stem from fear, greed, or any other reason, but it is purely based out of selfless love, which springs only when one acknowledges his divine ultimate essence. So, however, this inherent ignorance of ours and the influence of Maya prevent us from naturally surrendering. But Sri Krishna acknowledges the difficulty of overcoming these limitations. Therefore, he offers surrender as a shortcut and effective, which one has to practice to break free from Maya's clutches. So there are two examples, like a friend calling off their ferocious dog pouncing on us when we approach him or her for help, surrendering to Krishna, who is unimpacted by Maya's grasp, allows him to liberate us from Maya's hold. And also, bound by Maya's ropes, we need a savior. And Sri Krishna, once again, who is unaffected by Maya, can only free us like someone who is free untying a bound person. Now, there are two paths to surrender. First is the hard way, which involves self-effort through knowledge, yogic practices, and purification, which is a potentially long journey spanning over multiple lifetimes. Then the second is the easy way, which is complete surrender to Krishna with devotion or bhakti. This path allows for Krishna's grace to lead to self-realization within this lifetime itself. So now in verse 7.14, Shri Krishna explains that overcoming Maya's illusion is difficult, but for those who surrender to him, it becomes effortless. Therefore, surrendering to Krishna, which can be nurtured through practices like bhakti, becomes the most effective and effortless path towards overcoming Maya and also achieving self-realization. True surrender is empowering and it isn't a weakness, which is a common belief. It's acknowledging the limitations of our ego and recognizing a higher power. So surrendering is letting God help us, letting go of our ego and letting Krishna in. It's a shift in focus from I to Krishna, offering our actions and desires to him. By surrendering, we open ourselves to Krishna's grace, and this grace acts as a catalyst, accelerating our spiritual progress and ultimately leading to liberation. So there are 4 types of people who struggle to surrender, who are dushkritanas. So there's the muda or ignorant. So these people are focused solely on material pleasures, similar to animals. So they lack spiritual awareness. Then there is naradama or lazy. So these individuals know what they should do, but lack the initiative due to their laziness. Then there's mayaya apahrita jnanaha, the deluded speculators. So they have knowledge from scriptures, but they're too proud of their intellect. So this pride, fueled by Maya, prevents them from accepting God's greatness and practicing surrender. And last but not the least, there is the asuram bhavam ashritaha, the demonic nature. So these are atheists who either don't believe in God or actively oppose God and those pursuing spirituality.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Sujita, you wanted to add anything?
More or less it's same, Guruji. If you want me to read again with my notes, it's little bit of idhar-udhar, but it's all same.
Got it. But there was also those 6 steps for surrender. Do you remember that?
Sharanam.
No.
I have always liked what God likes. I will always like what God likes. I will not like what God does not like. I have gratitude. I have I have gratitude for everything that he's given me. Third, and fourth is hold on. He is the owner and provider of everything, and I will not have pride in surrendering to him. And there's one more I'm forgetting. I
think Solataji remembers.
DDOP. Desire the divine. Yeah, align our desires with the desire of divine's will, in fact. And the second is don't desire against his will. And F is have faith that he is our protector. Yeah. And we have gratitude for all the grace we have received. O is do not have the sense of ownership. And P is do not have be devoid of pride. Not even the pride of our surrenderance.
Yes. So this I think we should keep revising. I'm very happy that many of you seem to remember parts of it. But this is the core. This is the core of how to actually implement bhakti. Because unless we are able to surrender, we are not really going to progress in bhakti. And so that, DDFGOP is just a nice acronym that we should keep in mind. Excellent. It all makes sense. Did anybody have anything else they wanted to add for surrender? Or I think we have good coverage here. Now, jnana is there. Now we need to actually now turn it to vijnana. So that is the part that everybody has to do on their own. They will have to really, be mindful, introspect, and try to get into that mode. Very important. Like Anika ji pointed out, the fourth type of people who don't surrender to God are those people who are jnanis. But they are taking pride in their jnana. So that is like Maya's game. So you started studying spiritual knowledge because you wanted to know God. But as you started knowing more and more about God, you forgot God. Now you are into pride now. Now you are like a scholar. You are a panditha now. So that also makes you a deluded soul. So we have to take care of all of these things. Okay. Now let us talk about some another very important topic, which is the role of Radharani and her divine grace, because there is no bhakti movement without mention of Radha. She is the foremost bhakti yogi of all times. So Jnana, Bhakti, they are all God's divine energies and they are all under the rule of God's Yoga Maya. This word you have seen in the Bhagavad Gita earlier also, where God says everything is manifested using my own Yoga Maya, power of Yoga Maya. But then it is said that Radharani is that Yoga Maya itself. She is that power, very powerful personality. That is why it is very important to get Radharani's blessings to reach Krishna. Because what is between us and Krishna? It is that Maya only. And Radharani's energy is the same as Yoga Maya's energy. That is why it is important to get her blessings first. And when you get her blessings, the pathway to Krishna gets cleared. Very beautiful. Because Radharani is a very elevated soul. I mean, if you look at any bhakti, especially in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, you will see that Radharani is celebrated a lot because she was Krishna's foremost devotee. She was a devotee. She was Krishna's friend. She was Krishna's lover. She was everything, like friend, lover, devotee, student, everything in one package. So there is this scripture called Brahma Samhita, which is a very highly revered scripture in Vaishnava tradition. And there Radharani is portrayed as this supreme feminine manifestation of the divine. So the masculine manifestation is Krishna and the feminine manifestation is Radharani. And they form a whole. Like masculine and feminine, they are both part of the same whole. That is why whole means WHOLE. So that is why Krishna always says that when people ask Krishna why you didn't, marry Radharani, Krishna says, there is no difference between me and Radharani. We are the same. We are one and the same. Very profound concept. So Yoga Maya, the word Yoga Maya itself consists of two root words. Yoga, which means union. Everybody knows that union or connection. And Maya is the Lord's transcendental energy or Shakti. So Yoga Maya is the divine power that facilitates the soul's relationship, loving relationship with the Supreme God or reconnecting with God. So that is what this is all about. So in the Brahma Samhita 5.37, it glorifies Radharani. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabhiha Tabhiha Eva Nija Rupataya Kalabhiha Goloke Eva Nivasati Akila Atma Bhutaha Govindam Adipurusham Tam Maham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own realm, Goloka, with Radha, resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic installations of attitudes as they are freshly revived with spiritual entities. So, this commentary is actually by a great soul by the name Jiva Goswami. It's a very prominent Vaishnava devotee. And he explains that the gopis, headed by Radharani, they represent the form of Yoga Maya itself, which is the Lord's own spiritual energy, potent energy. And Radharani is the source of this Yoga Maya, which has two primary aspects. What are the two aspects of Yoga Maya? It's a very deep commentary. I've tried to condense it a lot for the sake of this session. So he says this Yoga Maya has two primary aspects. One is Jnana and the second is Bhakti. So he's saying these two are the aspects of Yoga Maya, Radha's energy. So through the Jnana Shakti, she is helping get rid of the darkness of ignorance. And she helps bestow the required wisdom for self-realization. And simultaneously, through the second aspect, which is the Bhakti Shakti, she infuses the soul with pure selfless love and devotion for the Supreme Lord. So Radharani does these two things together. She will first make us understand, she will give us the jnana, so that we know that bhakti is the right thing to do. We need to surrender to Krishna. And then she will also put that love for Krishna in our hearts. What else do you need? I mean, this is kind of what you really need to get close to Krishna. That is why it is being said that go approach Radharani, surrender to her and get her help. Tell her to create the path to Krishna and she will happily do that for you. You know, she's a selfless soul, so she is not going to be jealous. She's not going to say that only I have a relation with Krishna. If you ask her, she will help you also get to Krishna. Okay. Yeah, so in the again, as I said, in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, which is following the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Radharani is given a lot of importance. And even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said the same thing, that if you take shelter through Radharani, then your path becomes very clear. So there is a very inspiring story of Radharani. So it is said that Radharani was hesitant to take birth on earth before Sri Krishna was born. Because you know Radharani is a little older to Krishna, by just a few months, but still she is older. Now Vishnu tried to convince Lakshmi, but she was not ready. But she was like, you are still in Vaikuntha, I don't want to be born on earth, you know. So finally, she agreed, because Vishnu is very good in convincing people. He doesn't give up, you know. So finally she agreed, but she said there is one condition. So Vishnu said, okay, what is that condition? She said, even if I am born on the earth, I will open my eyes only when you, as Krishna, appear in front of me. So Vishnu agrees to that condition. So according to Padma Purana, Radha was discovered by Vrishabhanu on a lotus flower, radiant lotus flower, floating in the Yamuna river. And when Vrishabhanu picked her up and he brought her, everybody in the village, they thought Radharani is blind. They thought, because she was keeping her eyes closed all the time. And she did not open her eyes until Krishna himself came and stood in front of her. You know, that is kind of such a profound story. It also symbolizes the awakening of the spiritual vision and the kind of unconditional love that she had for Krishna. So unconditional that she's like, I don't want to see anything if you're not in front of me. It's okay if I don't see anything at all, you know, until I see you. Very deep, very kind of profound. The other thing to keep in mind is this also tells us a story. What it is telling us is Krishna's love, Radha Rani's love for Krishna was very pure. It was very profound, and it did not even require the physical sight for validation. How many of us can imagine a situation where we can profess our love for somebody that we have not even seen? That's a different level of love, right? For us, we have to see somebody, they have to be perfect, they have to be like 6 feet, they have to be white, they have to be blue-eyed, they have to be, dark hair. So many conditions we have. Otherwise, it's hard for us to completely love somebody. But here we have Radharani, who was so much in love with Krishna, and she says, my love is there even if I cannot see. These are all very, very deep. It needs a pure heart to understand all of that. So this legend tells us that Krishna was moved by her devotion, and he decided to come in front of her, and he kind of touched her eyes. And when he gently touched her eyes, that was the moment when she actually opened her eyes and saw for the first time in that particular birth. And Krishna wanted her to see him. That is the other part of the story. Krishna was waiting for Radharani to see him. He wanted her to see his form. Very, very beautiful story. But this encounter for us, it symbolizes the awakening of the soul to the eternal connection with the divine. That is how we need to understand the story. The story is our soul also is keeping its eyes closed. And we need to help the soul open the eye so that it can see Krishna and get connected again with Krishna. That is the whole symbolism here. It's a very beautiful story, but unfortunately you don't find the story in all the scriptures. But it resonates with the core theme of Bhakti Yoga, love, devotion, transformative power of divine grace and all of that. And then in the concluding verses, Shri Krishna talks about the diverse paths, how they all lead to one goal. And he starts from Satya Yuga. In Satya Yuga means age of truth. This Yuga, of course, was unparalleled purity and truthfulness. And here, the method recommended was meditation. It was possible because the Yuga was like that. It was very easy for people to focus on the divine. That is why if you see stories in our Puranas, people in that Yuga, they can sit and meditate for like hundreds of years and all. For us in Kali Yuga, if we can meditate for 5 minutes, I think it's an accomplishment. In the true sense, I mean. We close our eyes within 10 seconds, our phone will ring or something will happen or, or our mind will go to like, I want to check something, I forgot something. Very difficult in Kali Yuga, but Satya Yuga, it was possible. That is why in Satya Yuga, meditation was recommended. Then Treta Yuga. Here there was a slight decline in spiritual awareness, but still it was elevated. People were having elevated awareness. Their ritual practices was recommended. Like yagyas, for example. Most of the yagyas that are recommended, they were recommended for that yuga. They were correct for at that time only. Then Dwapara Yuga, the age of duality. So Treta Yuga itself means the age of sacrifice. Satya Yuga means the age of truth. Dwapara Yuga means the age of duality. Dwa is dual, so age of duality. And in Dwapara Yuga, people became more outwardly focused. So what happens when you are more outwardly focused? Now you need to focus on something external to practice devotion. So that was the Yuga when a lot of these temples were constructed. Many of the temples that you see that have survived, which we say are beautiful, very ancient temples, they are all belonging to the Dwapara Yuga. That is what was the recommended way of worship. But now we are in Kali Yuga. But definition, Kali Yuga means age of strife, dark age. Here our minds are very weak. Our minds are really weak, really distracted. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about me also. I'm part of this Kali Yuga. Even I find it hard. I find it hard to remember what I myself taught last week. Sometimes I forget parts of it, And then somebody like Sulataji has to remind me. She's an elevated soul. But there was a time when people would remember the entire Bhagavad Puranam. 18,000 shlokas. Can you imagine? So definitely our minds have deteriorated over a period of time. We cannot do what they did in the past. People could memorize the entire Mahabharata. They would memorize the entire Ramayana. See, there were no laser printers. There were no, Xerox machines in those days. So how did these epics survive thousands and thousands of years? They survived through word of mouth, which meant that people recited and memorized the whole thing. As you can see, we cannot do that, right? So do you all agree that our mind is not how it used to be in Treta Yuga or Satya Yuga? Everybody agrees? So if we agree, then how can we use the same techniques that they used for devotional practices? Doesn't make sense, no? So that is what Krishna is also saying. So in Kali Yuga, we cannot say, I will sit and meditate for 100 years. It's not going to happen. Or in Kali Yuga, you should not primarily focus on, yagyas and sacrifices. You can use them to support you, but they cannot be the primary means because they were for a different yuga. So then what is it for this yuga? What do you think is recommended? Anybody knows what is recommended in Kali Yuga?
Nama Sankirtanam.
Yes, Lakshmi ji is ready. Nama Sankirtanam. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has instructed very clearly. Harer Nama eva kevalam, kalau nastyeva gatiranyata. In this age of Kali, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. The only way is chanting the holy name. Chant the holy name, chant the holy name. Chant the name of Hari. That is the only way for Kali Yuga. Does that ring a bell? This is exactly what Krishna said when he said Ananya Chintan. So Ananya Chintan is a term you can take and interpret it in different ways. You can take the word Ananya Chintan, and if you are in Satya Yuga, you can interpret it as sit on a mountain and think of Krishna for 1,000 years. There's nothing wrong in that. That is also Ananya Chintan. If you are in the Treta Yuga, you can take the same term, you can interpret it as go do 100 yagyas. And in every yagya, you are sacrificing something to Krishna. Nothing wrong in that. That is also Ananya Chintan. If you are in the Dwapara Yuga, you can say that sit in front of the idol of Krishna and keep doing Archana all the time. Nothing wrong in that. That is also Ananya Chintan, but that was for a different Yuga, Dwapara Yuga. So in Kali Yuga, if you say Ananya Chintan, the interpretation would be keep chanting the name of Krishna. You don't have to make a show of it. You can chant internally also. Nobody need to even know that you are chanting, but do it. And what is the best way to do that? That's what we learned. Devotion in action. Anything you do, if it is for Krishna, the chanting also automatically comes. So that is how you succeed in Kali Yuga. So, as we said, there are two different things. One is chanting and one is kirtan. The fundamental difference is chanting is for us, whereas kirtan is helping others. But when you do kirtan, when you are singing loudly, it may reach the ears of people who are not focused, who are not thinking of God, and indirectly, you are helping them also. So that is one of the reasons why kirtanam is also recommended. Now, do you remember why a few chapters ago when we spoke about chanting, we said that just repeating the name doesn't really help. It cannot be, you cannot be like a machine gun chanter. People who Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I did 16,000 times, but that's okay. I mean, it was a good exercise, but what matters is, because we are talking about Ananya Chintan, we are not talking about Ananya chant. So chanting is a means. Chanting is not the end. What is the end? The end is Chintan. Your chanting has to help you in Chintan. Then the chanting is meaningful. So the bhava is very, very important. That is how the most important aspect is, are you focusing on God? You remember the example of village women who are carrying pots in their head. That should be how we live in our material life. Do what you want to do. Sing, dance, talk, argue, all fine. But don't forget the pot on the head. Don't let it fall. Don't let anything shake your focus on God, which is possible. So finally, Krishna is reminding us that how there are different paths that people take to reach Him and how people worship Him with different beliefs and perspectives. So Krishna is mentioning three types of jnanis who worship Him. The first is Ekatvena. So it is also known as Ahangrahopasana. These are the ones who worship Him in oneness. believing that they are also God. These are the people who are Aham Brahmasmi. I am also God. So that is one kind of jnanis, one way of worshipping, where identifying directly with God. Then the second type is Pratakvena, which is Pratika Posana. These are the ones who worship Him in diversity, where they believe that God is having different forms. So demigod worship and all of that forms under that. Multiple gods, multiple ways of worshipping God. And the third is Visvato Mukham, which is Vishwarupa Upasana. These are the ones who worship Him in the universal form, where they believe that Krishna is in everything. Krishna is everywhere and Krishna is in everything. So it's just an idea of all Krishna is saying is you have a freedom. Think what you want to think however you want to think, because it's all truth. At the end of the day, everything, I am in everything, I am everywhere. So you can either think of me as something external, you can think of me as something internal, you can think that you yourself are Krishna. Everything is true at the end of the day. But what matters is it should all align you to Krishna in the end. Doesn't matter which path you take. In the next verses of Bhagavad Gita, we are going to delve deeper into this concept of convergence, how everything converges, all the path. Many paths may seem disparate, but they ultimately lead to the same goal. And that Krishna is going to beautifully explain again in the next few slokas. So Hare Krishna, thank you so much. I will stop talking. Every time I say I'm going to talk less this time, but somehow I'll end up talking for a long time. So next session, I will make a more conscious attempt to make it shorter. Hare Krishna, thank you so much. Did anyone have anything to add or any questions, comments? People are looking at me like, kya baat kar rahe ho? Already it is so late. So, let us go.
Yeah.
Okay. Hare Krishna, thank you so much. See you all in the next session. Have a wonderful day, beautiful evening. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Guru.
Krishna.
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.